Hello, my name is Mitch Pattison. When we think of models, we think of pencil-thin, scantily clad women parading down a runway. The fashion industry in America must have forgotten that not all women wear a size 0 and weigh 100 pounds. In fact, that is a rarity rather than a commonplace. In the article entitled "The Forgotten Majority, the Fashion Industry Pays Attention to Plus-Size Women," The Economist examines what the plus-size clothing industry currently looks like. In a study conducted by Plunkett Research, 67% of women in America are classified as plus size, meaning size 14 and up. However, the fashion industry is not representative of that in the slightest. Only 18% of clothing sold in 2016 was plus size, an astonishing contradiction to the market. This can be attributed to higher costs or plus size women being characterized as high-risk shoppers. But this is an obvious market segment being ignored. The foundation for change has now begun. Major retailers like Lane Bryant, Target, Forever 21, and Nike have vastly expanded their plus-size clothing selection. Over the last 3 years, revenue growth has doubled that of standard-size clothing. However, many designer brands are tentative and still consider it a high-risk endeavor. This expanding market exemplifies two management terms we've been discussing throughout the year: incremental innovation and the BCG matrix. The textbook defines incremental innovation as a new product, service, or technology that modifies an existing one. However, I believe a better functional definition is any product, service, or technology that increases a company's competitive position or makes a product or product line better. It is crucial for companies to identify incremental innovations and utilize them to better their product. Alex will now tell you more about incremental innovation and how it relates to plus sizes in the fashion industry.
Hi, my name is Alex Kapitanovich, and I'll be explaining how incremental innovation pertains to our article. If we follow a more functional definition of incremental innovation, as Mitch explained earlier, we'll see exactly why companies such as Target, Nike, and many other designers would pursue modification of their clothing lines. Increasing their lines to include these plus-size clothing increases their competitive edge. In our article, The Forgotten Majority, the fashion industry pays attention to plus-size women, The Economist clearly states that after conducting research, 67% of women are considered plus size. And that's said not to have changed from, whenever it was to 2016, now 2017. That means there's a huge market to be tapped into. Nike has gone back into their clothing lines and expanded the X-size clothing, as stated in the article. That clearly shows how incremental innovation pertains to these companies, because they are further looking to enter a market that they have not tapped into, or they have just minimally tapped into. Now, even though plus-size clothing has higher production costs, Nike, Target, and many of these other designers are searching for ways to become more effective and efficient to shift towards X sizes. Why would they do this? Because if they become more effective and efficient in manufacturing, distribution, and retailing, they will then reduce their costs and increase their market shares within the ever-expanding plus-size clothing market. And that shows exactly how incremental innovation pertains to our article.
For our second concept, we chose the Boston Consulting Group Matrix, otherwise known as the BCG Matrix. The BCG Matrix allows us to evaluate businesses' performances. By using just two factors, the market growth rate and the share of a market, we're able to divide companies into 4 different categories. The categories are dog, star, question mark, and cash cow. Dogs have a very small share in the market and a very small growth rate. Question marks have a very high growth rate but a very small share in the market. Cash cows have a high share in the market but a very low growth rate, and stars have a high growth rate and a high share in the market. By categorizing companies, the BCG matrix suggests that the star is the best business opportunity, for it has the highest growth rate and the highest market share. I would now like to turn this over to Taylor to elaborate on how this matrix applies to plus-size women's fashion.
As Franklin just stated, there's this thing called a BCG matrix that diversified organizations use to relatively evaluate the performance of their different businesses. Within this matrix, there are 4 different categories: dogs, cash cows, question marks, and stars. Based off the article we chose, we deemed that plus-size women's fashion was a question mark. We came to this conclusion because although it is rapidly growing, so has a high growth rate, which would put it at either a star or a question mark, it still has a relatively low market share, which then knocked out the star and left us with the question mark. The high growth rate can be seen with the multitude of choices that have become available in recent years and are predicted to come available in future years. However, the majority of clothes are still targeted to the normal size consumer. So even though there have been strides to grow the market share, it's still pretty low. Even though its future is uncertain as a question mark, it's still a good investment if you're looking to put money somewhere. If you have confidence that plus-size women's fashion is to grow like it's predicted to, it could potentially become a star, which, as Franklin stated as well, is the most attractive thing for investors to get involved with.
Hi everyone, my name is EJ. Today our group members introduced 2 terms, which are incremental innovation and BCG matrix. Incremental innovation is a product, service, or technology increasing a company's competitive position or making a product or product line better. And the BCG matrix is a framework for evaluating businesses relative to the growth rate of their market and the organization's share of the market. By a current event that a fashion industry captured increasing amount of plus-size women and began to focus on designing for plus-size women instead of slim women, we know the word today is not how the fashion community portrays it, and the companies are starting to catch on. By recharacterizing the plus-size clothing industry in the BCG matrix and developing incremental innovation, the companies are expanding a market and catching up to the times in one fell swoop. Thank you very much for watching the video.